sort of the two parameters for Punishing Fire to be really good. I think it's hard to attack the mana base. Like you're not giving up a ton of consistency, and just giving yourself ways to break. I mean, a lot of the times the board can get gummed down, and it comes down to like, can you get Jit on a guy? How much is Mother Runes sort of locking up the action? Punishing Fire is a big breaker in scenarios where the game goes down that road, and it's not uncommon to have that happen. So I think I would definitely want to be on the side with the Punishing Fire than not.
One of the things that I see Jacob Kory has, his opponent, in lieu of the Punishing Fire, he's found room for Sylvan Library, extra copy of Scavenging Ooze. So he has 2 Scavenging Ooze.
Ooze, the man.
And Terravor and Thrun.
Yeah, so a fatty parade, yeah.
He goes big.
Yeah.
he goes big.
Go big or go home. One of the few truisms in life. Jacob Kory also has a Cradle amongst his land base that he has to go, obviously, mostly digging for with Nether Reliquary, and that's a card not seen in a lot of Maverick lists that I've seen at least. So
you know, I really, really love that, because I mean, if you think about the ways that the matchup works out, you end up, as you said before, with these really gummed up boards, but you might be actually kind of just restricted by your ability to produce mana, because you only have so many lands.
Right.
But then with a Gaia's Cradle, it wouldn't be unreasonable, I think, to tap that for 3 or 4 or 5, and then use all of that mana to do pretty obscene things all in a single turn.
Yeah. So again, there's so many options with the utility lands in these slots that the decks have access to, so it's really open to more exploration. I don't feel like the mana bases that are in front of us are just the beginning and end of what you can build here. Nether Reliquary gives you so much flexibility and utility. I mean, you know, Tower of the Magistrate is floating around, you know what I mean? And I didn't even know what that card did. So I assume there's more exploration to be done.
Jacob Kory, he actually this morning came by with cupcakes for me and for Patrick.
Yeah, it was messy. I mean, those things were just goopy and falling apart. They were real good, though. I don't know where he got them from, but probably someplace in the area, but they were sweet. Yeah,
he was like, you know, he said to me that he it was cool to see me here this weekend because I had interviewed him and done some coverage for the JSS that he was in. That's the Junior Super Series. That was 13 years ago.
Yeah, I know that. That dude hasn't been a teenager in a minute, so I know that had to have been way back in the day.
If you can picture Jacob Kory looking about the age of his opponent, that would have been about how old he was when I did some coverage of Jacob Kory the last time.
Yeah, how much hair did he have back then?
You know, I don't remember. I could not tell you what Jacob Kory looked like when he was Nathan's age. But it was really cool that he had the cupcakes for us, and that was awesome.
Yeah, no, the LA crew is like, I'm a huge fan of those dudes, and like Liam and Ben Perry and all those guys. Like I kind of just met at the Open last year for the first time, and they all crushed me every time. Every time I ran into one of them, they're all awesome dudes. They all crushed me, and so. You know, I'm not active kind of in the local scene to the same degree that they are, and so I'm sort of in and out of it. But anytime I'm back there, just like super enthusiastic and welcoming with open arms. So I'm very fond of them.
Yeah, speaking of legacy scenes, I think one of the best players in the world right now is probably without doubt Owen Turtenwald, and I think that he really got his start in competitive Magic in a real way in a legacy scene, and that's kind of where he got himself.
He's in the first ballot Goblins Hall of Famer. You know, along with Jim Davis and John Sonny, Masters 1 and all.
Mother of Runes from Nathan Calvin. We saw how difficult it was for Mother of Runes to be overcome in the previous matchup. It's no different here.
So we have an update. It looks like Reanimator took down Dredge 2-0.
Kind of what we were expecting.
So far both my lines are holding up, you know?
Both of our lines.
Yeah, still got it.
Second land from Nathan Calvin, and we're going to see a Scrib Ranger. Love this card.
It is real tricky.
Now, the thing that's interesting about Scrib Ranger, you could also play Quirion Ranger or play Quirion Ranger in lieu of it, but the Pro Blue is real.
Yeah, especially in Delver Land. I mean, yes.
And flying is real, particularly when you're talking about a deck that might pick up a piece of equipment.
Right, yep. And we saw, it is a super complicated card to play against, so you pick up some margins there, as we saw earlier when my boy James Gates, you know, soiled himself on camera running a Signal Pesto into it while it was tapped with a Jit on it for the full disaster. So,
I think one of the things I love about Quirion Ranger, Scrib Ranger style effects is it's the kind of on-the-board trick people are so unaccustomed to playing against that even though it's written on the card what it can do, what might happen, you can still just fall prey to it.
Right.
Sylvan Library, that's a card that I love.
Yeah, but I mean, having a Sylvan Library is fine. I don't really think the matchup is played on those terms. Like, a lot of the fighting goes on the board, and
he's reading the card. That's actually not a good idea, Nathan.
This card was actually printed before Nathan Calvin was born, so it is not too surprising that he is not familiar with it.
It's also important to note that
it's also baffling.
It's also important to note that the card text on any printed Sylvan Library is not the actual text.
Yeah, it's not even close. I mean, you kind of have to know what this card does.
I believe what's happening now is he's being given the Oracle text by a judge.
Right. I think Nathan just cut him off. It's like, yeah, that's fine, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, draw cards and stuff.
Right.
Now, to be fair, I think that while Jacob hasn't done anything with the board yet, Nathan does not have a particularly scary board presence at all. He's got a good set of cards, but he's not really doing anything that's going to put Jacob under pressure yet.
Yeah, but Mother of Runes just makes it so hard to get any traction in the game.
Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah, it's an enchantment. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. This still works, right? All right,
Attack for 2. Right. Okay. Crack, and that had a lot of text. Text is bad. Let's kill it.
As a rule.
If your opponent ever plays a card that has a lot of text and they are winning, don't worry about what the card does. Consider it a threat.
Right, and it's, anytime you play from one of those cards from one of the old sets and it's like has a brick of text and is baffling and definitely not templated correctly, and your opponent's playing against you in a Legacy tournament, it's probably doing something awesome, so best to err on the side of caution. So we got a
Sword of Fire and Ice.
I think is that Light and Shadow? I can't tell. The arts are like pretty similar for those two cards. All right, Nathan just ripped a Stoneforge Mystic, so now he's going to be able to start putting his foot on the pedal a little bit, because he's going to be able to saddle up on the Script Ranger pretty soon.
That's Light and Shadow.
Showing no respect. Getting in with the Mother of Runes.
And we have a miss now. William Miller with Stoneblade beats Reanimator in 3 games.
Okay.
Mother of Runes just is like, I'm ready. Fight, fight, fight. Trying to cut that clock down a little bit.
Yep. That's the ultimate, like, I just don't have any regard for you as opponent in a creature matchup. Mother Runes is slapping him in the mouth. I mean, that's just like...
Our first possible creature?
Knight
of the Reliquary. That's a good creature.
There's nothing wrong with it, but...
I believe that's a teeny tiny Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah.
Is he exiled?
It is now, yeah.
No, did he go farming, or did he go exiled?
He went farming.
Okay.
She went farming? I think it's a female.
It's a she, yeah. Knight of the Reliquary is a she. Making every creature that was in play there for a moment a female creature.
So Nathan's hand is Punishing Fire and Jit. So he's got a ton of pressure in between Grove, and he has the Grove Punishing Fire thing set up, so now he's going to be able to pick off any mana creatures. He can start doming them out if the game gets gummed down. I mean, Jacob's getting blown out of the water here.
Yeah, Jacob is really being torn up, and it's important to note Jacob's answers to a piece of equipment. Kasali Pride Mage is the only thing he can do. He does have 3 copies, and he does have 4 Green Sun Zenith, but that Umazawa's Jite needs to go and fast.
Yeah, so this is...
he's going to Jite answers Jite.
So pick up 4 life, I guess.
And the clock once again returns to a quite slow little trickle of damage.
Yeah, it's still just real rough for Jacob to ever get any... Oh, there's there's the Cradle.
Cradle makes nothing.
Not at its best right now.
Punishing Fire waiting in the wings for Nathan.
Yeah. It's got a lot of angles.
In for 2, Mother starts deciding to be on the D again.
Yeah. You already gave him a taste once. You don't need to. You don't need to run it back. You know.
Just runs up, hits you in the face once.
Yeah. Just to let you know what I think of you.
Knight of the Reliquary. This is a much bigger Knight of the Reliquary. Nathan actually has used some fetch lands. The specific size I can't quite make out with the cards off camera. Just up at the top of the camera there, but I'm going to be willing to bet it's in the 4/4 to 5/5 range, maybe even as big as 6/6. Scrib Ranger returns a
the Savannah.
Savannah, untaps the Stoneforge.
Yeah, so now he has Punishing Fire up.
Really awesome with the Scrib Ranger and Mom is that Scrib Ranger Mom means you can, on their turn or your turn, prevent 2 colors because you can just return a forest to untap Mom.
So is this a Naked Knight again? It's just 2/2.
Knight picks up the Sword of Light and Shadow.
Because if this thing gets just tagged by Punishing Fire, that's real bad.
I think it's a 3/3.
Okay.
I don't know, though. Once again, we have the graveyards off camera. And now that there's a Sword of Light and Shadow on that Knight, using Grove to kill it is pretty hard. But Swords to Plowshares is not going to get it either.
Yeah, I think Nathan's actually got a Pride Mage in his hand, so the sword's not that huge of a deal right now. But, again, the artwork is difficult to make out sometimes.
Here we go. Nathan getting out of land.
How fancy are we getting here?
Let's find out.
Oh!
Tower of the Magistrate.
There it is! Pretty fancy.
Russian cannoli. What are we having, cannolis over here?
So he floated the mana, presumably, and now he's going to probably just drop his Pride Mage down. Although there's less of a priority to do that now that he has Tower of the Magistrate up.
Tower is such an awesome card. That was a card I wanted to see used way back then, but it just never seemed to be that opportunity to make it work.
Yeah.
A second Knight of the Reliquary for Nathan. He's really starting just to overwhelm the board in a way that's just incredible.
Yeah, and again, Mother Runes is just preventing any sort of, like, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Yeah, so Jacob's going to keep slogging through here, hoping that Nathan makes some sort of mistake. But, I mean, this is...
And Nathan's been playing really tight.
Yeah. You got it with the folks watching, man.
Down to 8. Not many turns left here for this game. Jacob Kory's outs. Not so many. Wasteland hits Tower.
Yeah, he's gonna
Tower
make the...
hits Knight. Knight becomes pro artifact. Let me see that card.
Don't feel bad, Jacob. I didn't know either.
I think the first time I saw Tower of the Magistrate in play, I actually had a childlike opening of wonder. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Emoticon : capital D.
Yeah.
A Kasali Pride Mage comes out, and it picks up the Sword of Light and Shadow.
Yeah, this is a pretty bad grind.
Bojuka Bog,
Yeah.
targeting Nathan Calvin, actually. That is pretty awesome with those knights. Make them tiny.
Yeah.
Not that they're going to stay tiny.
Right. If it wasn't so behind on the board, that would be a pretty big deal here, but...
Nathan
He's basically debating on whether or not he wants to spin the knight once again.
untaps.
Yeah, he's going to do this at the end of the turn. It's basically just... He's just getting the spinning the wheels, getting the engine up and running again.
He's going to get a fetch land and then fetch, most likely.
Yeah.
Giving him knights that are 4/4 instead of 2/2.
This to me is actually the only thing that really annoys me a lot about Legacy is the non-stop searching and shuffling and picking up the deck and putting it back down, and like, you know, this sort of chain I find to be pretty unpleasant, but that is just part of the that's part of the nature of the beast, I guess.
This is actually one of the reasons why when they printed the enemy fetch lands, I made a little sad face.
Right, because extended at the time, I was like finally ready to be done with
yes.
fetch land, Ravnica dual land just being the foundation for every deck, and you know, God knows how much time is spent just, you know, searching and shuffling and what have you. But you got to pay the bills, man. Wizards is no different than the rest of us, so.
There is a Savannah comes into play. Theoretically, should he want it, Nathan Calvin has access to 5 mana here.
All right, so we're spinning up again.
This time, no fetch land, just getting a regular old.
Well, no, he already
land.
changed. He changed.
Oh, did he change? I didn't see him do the 2.
Yeah.
I didn't see him do the 2-step. The Knight of the Reliquary 2-step. Pro green, perhaps?
Yeah, I think this is just lethal. If Jacob's life total is accurately listed there, that's a... Like, he can Script Ranger and spin again, right? Even if he's 1 point short.
And we see mana.
Yeah, he's
return,
doing it. Yeah, he's doing it again.
Mana, sack. Is there a Swords to Plowshares action?
Yeah, I mean he has Knight. Yeah, the issue is that he can lock it in. He can lock in Mother of Runes on Knight of the Reliquary named White.
Yep.
If he responds by Knight and Plow, he can untap with Script Ranger, set it again.
Yep.
Once Pro White gets locked in, then he can go with his Knight and do whatever to build up the attacking Knight for lethal. So as long as he just says Knight, Mother Runes the Knight, and sets to White before anything else happens, he's safe from any trick Jacob could have inside of combat.
You can see how Nathan Calvin's mana is basically being sacrificed to the gods of damage now.
Yeah, well, it's
all he needs.
It's
to finish it
lethal,
off
yeah.
now.
So assuming Nathan announced everything correctly, I'm not quite sure what's...
Mazavith.
Oh, Mazavith, right. Yeah, you can maze.
Ouch. I kind of feel like the Price is Right little.
Yeah.
Go. Waiting to find out if there's anything else at the end of the turn here.
Right. I mean, he's like Nathan can still spin his remaining Savannah into a wasteland, right? The following turn and just get the maze up. Get out from under the maze.
He's gonna actually looks like a Pride Mage here. 1 extra life for Jacob Kory.
Right. So now with Knight and Pride Mage, he can just gun down the sword if Jacob tries to make any aggressive play with it. So yeah, Nathan went through a lot of trouble to induce the maze, but assuming Jacob can't really capitalize on the fact that the Mother Runes is down for the time being, the following turn he's just going to be able to spin into a wasteland and take out the maze and go from there. All right, so he's moving the sword over.
That's the graveyard there we're looking at.
Yeah. I would be surprised if he doesn't just, you know... It seems like you just want to knight and blow up the sword, no matter what.
I think he's going to do exactly what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cost, so he sacrifices the Savannah. Looks like there might be a response. In response, now that there's no way to untap the Mother of Runes,
Yep.
Jacob Kory swords his mom. Goodbye, Mom.
Yeah. I mean, I still think he's facing down like Mega Lethal next turn.
I think each of those knights might be lethal all by itself.
Right.
I don't have the ability to see the full graveyard right now, but if we saw Nathan Colvin's graveyard for the knight count, I bet you it would be substantial.
It's getting his own Maze of Death.
And he untaps the Knight of the Reliquary from Jacob Kory. Doesn't want to throw away his Scrib Ranger here, basically.
Yeah, I guess I just don't understand how that plays better than getting a land and just blowing up the sword.
I hear you. Nathan Calvin now is unable to use his knights unless he gets another land. The number.
Well, I thought he had one back in his hand because of
a Scrib Ranger earlier.
Right. Yeah, he still has a Savannah left over. Yeah, I think I would have just gone and gotten Wasteland there and blown up the sword, take the hit, and then.
There are only a grand total of, doing the count here, 1, 5, 7 forest cards in Nathan's deck. So his knights are not an infinite resource.
Right.
Reset with a new mom. Nathan has 2 moms. One's gone. Here's the new one. Okay, waiting to see if there's anything else Nathan does at the end of this turn. He comes in with a Knight of the Reliquary. Oh, nope, pardon me, taps. Taps his Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah, so he's wasting the maze.
Let's see if we can get a unobtrusive count on the lands in the yard.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we've got to be careful about is in trying to get the size of those Knights of the Reliquary from our table spotter, that the table spotter doesn't give away unintended information to the players.
So you just ask to pick up and look through everything. That way they don't know what you're looking for.
Sounds from the spotter at the table. Calvin has 9 lands in his graveyard. And unfortunately, with Kory's graveyard, the judge is unable to look at it without making it clear that he's looking through it. A fair amount, it might be said. Dryad Arbor fetched by Jacob Kory. Here we have Knight come on in. Oh, pardon me. Nope, Knight is just spinning away the Dryad Arbor.
Right. This feels like the green-white decks I built back in like '94 with my buddies, where it's like we just all had our crawl worms and no one felt safe attacking. And it's like these are the same decks, just the creatures got a little bit better.
Horizon Canopy. Sacrifice the Horizon Canopy to draw a random card. And go. 1 mana open for the Kasali Pride Mage to do work should a scary equipment come out. There is the possibility of another sword. And after sideboarding, since we're in game 2, and the, I think, unlikely possibility of a Phyrexian Metamorph.
I think Metamorph's fine. I mean, he has a...
Copy your best battleship.
Right. There's some sweet targets, like Knight of the Reliquary and Eternal Witness, potentially.
Fetch from Jacob Kory. Look, look, look. Okay, let's see if we can see how many land we see there. 1, 2, 3... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Minimum of 12 lands in Jacob Kory's yard. There could be more, though. Okay, the table judge is saying that there are 8 lands in Kory's yard. I thought I saw more than that. Green Sun Zenith for 2. Actually, pardon me, that is a Gaia's Cradle with 2 creatures in play. So that is a 1, 2, 3, 4. Green Sun Zenith for 3. Is this going to be an Eternal Witness? Eternal Witness it is. Green Sun Zenith shuffles back into the library. Jacob Kory is going to be able to retrieve his best card from the yard, whatever that might be. That might be an Umezawa's Jite. Any thoughts? Umezawa's Jite, Swords to Plowshares. Apparently,
yeah.
Swords is going to be the target.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get that sick mom. The sick mom. Also exiled. Go.
Yeah. He's going to blow up the sword here.
Kasali Pride Mage does the work that maybe you were suggesting should have happened a turn or two ago.
You can't really get Jit there just because of the Maze of Eth. It's not really going to...
That's a good point.
Impossible to really get it online.
Well, you can get the Wasteland next turn for that, so the Maze won't work.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think he's like staring down... He's basically staring down lethal like now, and he certainly is staring down lethal if Mother Ruin gets on tap because you just set it to green and then that's...
That's a very good point. Now Nathan has 2 huge monsters and then 1 little plinker in the air. Each of these creatures is lethal. Nathan Colvin's Knights are both 11/11. Jacob has at least 9 lands in his yard now that Wasteland hit. Actually, that makes Nathan's 12-12. Yeah. And he can make one of his knights bigger by sacrificing one of his forests, getting a fetch land, and going to one size larger than Nathan's.
Yeah, I think he's just going to ship, and if Jacob does anything to get his knight to be bigger before damage, he'll just maze his own knight.
Yes. The Knight of Reliquary maze trick that would normally be available is not here for a forest, but that doesn't stop you from just untapping and getting your guy out of combat.
Yep.
Or in this case, getting your gal out of combat.
So assuming he's, yeah. Basically, it looks like Jacob's debating between a new draw with Horizon Canopy, or if he's going to get Wasteland and waste the maze, and it looks like he's selling on Horizon Canopy. More of an issue of mana efficiency since he has the option to go and get the Wasteland the following turn. But he might not have the mana available to sack a Horizon Canopy next turn.
You'll notice this is the second Horizon Canopy that Jacob Kory has retrieved. And Nathan untaps his own Knight of the Reliquary to protect the knight. Eternal Witness bites the dust. Red mana from Nathan Colvin, pardon me, green mana makes a Noble Hierarch. I see a Windswept Heath fetched immediately. Jacob Kory drops down a little bit further. Another Savannah. Is that a green Sun Zenith's hand? Oh boy. Oh boy. That's the ooze. Prepare to lose. The ooze at this point can suck 5 cards out of Nathan Colvin's yard at will.
Yep.
This is not enough, unfortunately, to make the Knight of the Reliquaries stop being lethal. But next turn, the turn after that, they will stop being lethal.
Right. The Scrib Ranger is still going to be clipping away, and
yep.
Nathan has some big draws, like any piece of equipment, assuming he now has white mana. Any piece of equipment's a huge draw. Like, he also just drew a plow, which is insane.
No mana to cast. Oh,
No,
Noble Hierarch. Noble Hierarch.
Yeah.
Hiding in the plain sight. Plow the Knight.
Seems like a good starting point.
Nathan Colvin does not have any secluded steps here to do the old Type 2 trickery. All he can do is fetch a land and let's see what he has left.
I think he has some Wastelands, and I think he just has like Wastelands, Savannas, Forests, and Plains. I think he's run out of all of his utility lands besides the Wastelands.
And there it is. The Wasteland here.
It would have started being very good this turn and then the following turns, because he would have gotten to blow up the maze, which would have made combat a lot trickier for Nathan. But now that his knight's dying, it's not nearly as good. So he's just doing this again.
Fetches.
Gets to gain an extra life off the plow.
The life gain is actually super huge in one sense. Now the knights from Nathan are actually not going to be lethal,
Yeah, he's got a little
because
more
the ooze can suck up a lot of the land from Nathan's yard, and thus he will be able to take a pretty big hit. He probably will still have to chump with, I believe, his Kasali Pride Mage, and then sit behind his ooze.
Yep.
Remember, the ooze, besides being super awesome in every way, also gains life for you when you eat a creature, as
Yep.
well as growing.
Yeah. There's a lot of utility for 2 mana.
One of the reasons that a lot of these decks don't run Tarmogoyf, and that it's uncommon to see a Tarmogoyf, is that Ooze often plays the same role as Goyf.
While giving some random game for against, the Dredge and Reanimator decks of the world, too. And the green-white deck is definitely, it's not short on guys that are good at brawling, but it is short on ways to disrupt the unfair decks. So it's not surprising to see Ooze be preferable to Goyf. You have plenty of guys like Goyf who do not have a lot of utility like Scavenging Ooze.
Nathan tosses the land aside.
Right.
Apparently Calvin's Knights have become 5/5s.
That didn't take very long.
No. And actually now with the untap, they are going to become virtual 2/2s in a moment. Green Suns for
Zenith
3.
For 3.
This looks like this is falling away for Nathan Calvin now.
Well, I think Jacob still needs one more big draw, because now, even with the Knights no longer really functioning, Nathan can just go and lean on Scrib Ranger plus Noble Hierarch to start clocking him. I mean, it's a 4-turn clock.
But it's not because of the Ooze. The Ooze gains life.
Well, are there any creatures?
There are creatures in both yards.
I assumed that everything was just like either plowed or there wasn't really a ton of trading. I guess Jacob has done some chump blocking.
Yeah, Jacob is chump blocked. Dryad Arbor is in both yards, I believe, and that's a creature.
Sure.
That's worth noting that if a Dryad Arbor does get removed,
He's just drawing another Mother of Runes, which is just...
Mother was very good right there. Scrib Ranger comes in the air for 2. I don't see what he selected.
Pride
Looks
Mage.
like a Pride Mage.
Prime Mage.
And 2 lands, it sounds like. Yep. Gain 1 life for Jacob Kory. Oh my goodness. Stoneforge Mystic. Is there anything left? Oh, do you see that? Nathan Calvin's head drops right to the table.
I have been really impressed by the way that Jacob has played this game. I mean, he looked dead to rights a bunch of different times, and just clearly he knows this matchup quite well.
Batterskull.
So now Jacob also has the decision point of, does he want to choke him off mana, or is he looking to get that maze off the table?
The maze is just really annoying.
Well, he has another spin with the knight, right? As long as he's not planning on attacking the very next turn.
Yeah.
Because he can go spin, go get Wasteland,
And he goes after
Stoneforge, my Battered Skull, untap, and then kind of
Yep.
go from there.
And he goes after the mana. And Jacob says, after much contemplation, go. Seems reasonable. He can now activate the Gaia's Cradle for 4 mana, meaning that 6 cards in the graveyards are up for grabs.
Yeah.
His creatures are huge. Mother of Runes can protect, and so can the Amazabeth, but...
Yeah, unfortunately, Jacob still needs a way to actually punch through. That Mother of Runes is going to prevent him from actually...
This is true. Nathan looks through Jacob Kory's graveyard, trying to see how many creatures there are there that will fuel the ooze. The turn that I think that the momentum in this game switched is when Nathan went for the attack, and the Mazavith from the Open Night of the Reliquary stopped the attack from being meaningful.
Right. He committed a lot of resources to inducing that play out of Jacob, and it was not an efficiently spent turn, and him basically using his turn that way gave Jacob enough breathing space to start actually getting the board stabilized.
If you remember on that turn, he basically brought back, sacked bunches of land, and then used his Scrib Ranger to untap and went pretty much all in.
He also just drew a Path to Exile, it appears.
It's a good card. In comes Scrib Ranger for 2.
So he's nuking the rest of Nathan's graveyard right now. Yep, so he spins the knight and goes and wastelands and wastes the maze.
Look at how thin Jacob Kory's library is. There are 4 Green Sun Zeniths in there.
Yep.
And just whatever creatures he thinks are good. I love seeing Bojuka Bog in play. That's just one of my favorite cards in Legacy. Thank you, Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah, so he gets in for another 2 with the Scrib Ranger.
Go ahead.
Happy to hold down the fort with Mother of Runes.
Here comes the Germ, equipped to a Batterskull. You're totally correct, though, about the situation with Mom on Nathan Colvin's side. Jacob still has to actually kill Nathan somehow.
Well, the nice part about the Batterskull now is that it basically means that the Mother of Runes is forced to block and protect itself, which means that any plow or path or whatever that Jacob draws actually will kill Mother of Runes. Then he can start clawing his way back over the top.
That's actually what he needs, though, is he needs to have that specific card. I don't think he has any... He does have Path to Exiles in the sideboard, so he could have brought that in. Meanwhile, until the Batterskull actually connects for damage, Scrib Ranger is nibbling away, and there are creatures running out.
Right.
Stoneforge Mystic blocks. Mom protects. Do we have a plow here? There's the plow for Mom. Rut-row, Reggie.
There we go.
Now Jacob is looking to be in a very safe position.
Yes. That was the final piece of the puzzle. Now he's actually going to start doing some real damage.
The other brackets are all decided at this point, and we've got the winner of this match will play against Stoneblade in the hands of William Miller. In the other bracket, it's going to be Reanimator by John Hardevel versus Punishing Maverick by John Casari. Jacob Kory untaps. Here's going to be the first real Batterskull attack of any note. He puts it on the Knight of the Reliquary.
And he's going to make it count.
It's going to be huge, huge. In comes this Oh! Path to exile.
So that means that Nathan is still presenting lethal next turn between the Scrib Ranger and the Knight.
Now remember, Scavenging Ooze can keep Jacob alive if there are enough creatures.
I think everything's already been stripped out.
Oh my goodness. I think there might be one creature left. We'll see. Before he goes away, the Knight of the Reliquary seeks out a Plains. The judges say, wow. He couldn't even help himself. Normally when you're a table judge, your job, be stoic, step in, make sure that the rules are enforced, be quiet, don't say much. But he couldn't even help it. Wow.
Another ooze.
Ooze number 2, not very exciting. I think we hear a go. Is this it?
No point in thinking about it, man.
In the air for 2.
Get in there.
If it doesn't kill him, maybe a Punishing Fire will do.
Yep.
In the air for 2. Uses the ooze. I think there's a Kasali Pride Mage in his yard. Oh, Dryad Arbor. As we talked about earlier, the Dryad Arbor is a creature.
But I think he has Punishing Fire in his hand, so that's not enough to get it done.
But the red gives Jacob life.
Yeah, so he's going down to 1, Grove up to 2, and then Punishing Fire to 0.
Oh, you're exactly right. Exactly 0 damage.
Wow.
Which means game 3.
Jacob, in spite of losing that game, Jacob played that game real well.
I totally agree.
I was impressed.
Yeah.
You can tell he's a little frustrated because like Nathan had to have a lot of really good draws there to prevent Jacob from taking that game over. But that was for award for best performance in a loss goes to in a losing effort.
Wow, for those of you who are just joining us, this is the Star City Games Live Open Series. This is the second match from the quarterfinals that we've brought you. Just earlier, we had Punishing Maverick play against Rug Delver, crushing it 2-0. And now we're doing Punishing Maverick versus just Maverick. And we're going to go to a game 3. I'm Adrian Sullivan.
And I'm Patrick Sullivan. And surprisingly, Punishing Fire was basically in Nathan's hand the entire game.
Entire game, only used for the death blow.
Yeah, he was never really able to use it properly. Or, sorry, properly is not.
There was never an opportune time for him to use it up until the killing stroke, knocking Jacob exactly to 0, gains a life +1 from the Grove of Burnwillows just to naturally cast the Punishing Fire to knock him exactly from 1 to 2, then down to 0.
And you can tell even with Jacob's for all of Jacob's like maneuvering and getting the right targets, it was just so hard to get through all those Mother of Runes. The amount of time and energy it took for him to actually get into a position to start attacking, even though he had all these 13-13s or however big they were there at the end.
It's important to note, too, Jacob Kory is running 4 Mother of Runes himself.
Right, although they are much worse in his deck than they are in Nathan's because of the Punishing Fire.
This is true.
He has an extra way to kill it.
Oh, look at that look. That was a good game. You know, that I have been in that position where you play a really hard-fought match. You play your heart out. You lose. But, you know, it was just a good game of Magic.
Right.
The winner of this match, as we said before, will be playing Stoneblade in the hands of William Miller. I believe the match we are likely to go to, on the other hand, though, will not be either of these players, but we'll see the other side of the bracket with Reanimator versus Punishing Maverick.
Yeah, for all the chatter we've had about Reanimator today, I don't think we've actually had it on the camera yet, unless it was during the round that I missed.
In fact, we have not had Reanimator under the cameras. If we look at the 11 rounds of Magic that we have shown today, pardon me, the 7 rounds of Magic that we have shown today, there are 12 different archetypes that we've shown in those 7 rounds, which is actually below par.
Right, yeah. I remember my, the Grand Prix I played in Columbus and the Open here last year, I'm trying to think, but it was something like, 8 rounds, play against 7 different decks. Columbus was 16 rounds, play against 9 different decks or something like that. So,
Jacob Kory elects with the option to draw.
Yeah, I mean the game went to turn 1,000,000. So
right. Yeah, the I was thinking about my last 2 Grand Prix Legacy events, and I think I day 2'd both of those events, and I think in all of the rounds that I played, there might have been an overlap of 1 archetype out of all of the rounds of 2 Grand Prix.
So what's interesting about the decision to draw here is, from Jacob's perspective, the major potential disadvantage is Mother Runes gets online. All of his answers to the Mother Runes work on the draw just as well as on the play. They're the plows and the paths. The other side of that is that it means that Nathan now has extra additional answers to Jacob's Mother Runes, because now his Punishing Fire is online on the play. You can also tag a Noble Hierarch or a Dryad Arbor. So a lot of his turn 1 plays become much worse, but it does give him an extra draw step, a little bit of extra insurance against Mother Runes, and because the game dragged out for so long, it's possible the extra card is just worth more than the tempo.
It also is good just in terms of one of the simplest reasons to draw. The power of your mulliganing is better.
Right.
And, this match, basically the way I look at it, either someone is going to push the other person over immediately because they've stumbled, or it's going to drag out like we just saw.
Yeah, it's going to be a big slog.
All it takes is a single stumble, for example, and then you can have a Knight of the Reliquary just go, well, you stumbled, wasteland you, next turn wasteland you,
right,
and it's done. Whew. You talked quite a bit there about Jacob Kory's play. I have to say, this young player, Nathan Calvin, 15 years old, he definitely did some good Magic too. Yeah. There was that one turn that I wasn't very happy with, but I think he basically, and there was a one turn later with Kasali Pride Mage that you weren't as happy with, but I think he basically played this quite well in a very complicated match in a deck he was given this morning.
Right. And I struggle enough with the interactions of Legacy, and I've actually played with all these cards my whole life. To come in and, into the game at whatever point and have to learn all the 20 years worth of content, and all the old cards have bizarre interactions and aren't templated the right way and all that kind of stuff. Trying to learn all that stuff is really daunting. I don't feel like I would be able to do it now, like nearly as well as I could when I first started playing. So.
I mean, I try to imagine, like, let's say I were to start playing, like the WoW collectible card game, for example, right? That's a fairly new game, and I feel like trying to catch up on the cards that have been printed in that game would be daunting.
Yeah, it is. And that doesn't have nearly the volume of content that Magic does.
Turn 1, Green Sun Zenith for Dryad Arbor, the equivalent of casting a Llanowar Elf.
Right, and we also don't have the drawback of like having templates in our game that could most charitably be described as prehistoric. So.
Turn 1 for Jacob Kory gets a wasteland-proof forest with his fetch land and finds a Noble Hierarch. Very similar openings. They're both ramping up. Nathan Calvin has more options to stop the ramp.
Yeah, and this is the big risk that that Jacob took, I believe, by choosing to draw first. If Nathan has Punishing Fire, he's able to break up the Hierarch draw, and he would not have been able to do that otherwise.
And Nathan quick consults his hand before he makes his final selection with his fetch land. Another Savannah.
And another Reliquary.
She is a good knight.
So this will be the first test of the game. Yep, he has an answer.
That is a Swords to Plowshares for the 4/4 Knight of the Reliquary.
So now I believe Jacob is mulling either whether he wants to cast Stoneforge Mystic or use a Wasteland.
And he does Wasteland. Says go with his Forest open, threatening nothing. Taiga here for Nathan Calvin. I think I see a little Scrib Ranger in his hand. Oh, Sword of Feast and Famine, I believe.
Yeah, this is pretty dangerous because of the Scrib Ranger. He can actually get that thing on at instant speed. So Jacob is actually has to play a little bit conservatively, even if Nathan's board is empty of creatures. He's also just threatening it right now off the Dryad
Arbor.
So
we see another Noble Hierarch. I see a Horizon Canopy in Jacob's hand, but he's laid a Windswept Heath. I think he has another Swords in his hand.
But even if this even if he goes to equip the Dryad Arbor, and it induces Jacob to plow, that's a pretty big victory, I think.
Oh yeah, losing a Swords to kill a Dryad Arbor is not exciting.
Right. If we learned anything from the second game, is that the matchups, like, there are a couple cards that matter and a couple answers, and the rest of the decks are just sort of filler. Like, it's not going to be powerful enough. Dryad Arbor is not really one of those cards, so getting a plow or a path put there instead of against some other runes or another Reliquary is a big win.
And in response to the Scrib Ranger being cast, Jacob Kory fetches, and I think we're going to see the sad play of Swords.
Yeah.
Much like we were talking about in Standard the other day, about the power of Dissipate in control matchups, the power of Swords to Plowshares in this matchup,
yeah, it's
the same difference.
You only have a couple of them, and you had to save them for when they're absolutely necessary.
Now we need to make sure that Dryad Arbor is removed from the game, and the judge takes care of that immediately.
Yeah.
1 mana is fetched from that Dryad Arbor before it is left for the world. He returns a land, lays it down. He's got 1 mana floating. With that 2 mana, makes a Kasali Pride Mage, says go. Horizon Canopy.
This looks probably a knight, I would guess.
I agree. And a Stoneforge Mystic in hand. Takes 1 pain here. I think it's going to be Knight Mystic.
So he is laying down his defenses. He's announcing to Nathan, go ahead and tag me with the sword.
I mean, if you can't stop it.
Right, yeah.
For Nathan's play there is going to be the same regardless. Nathan is going to equip the sword on something.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Yeah, I like that play from Jacob's perspective because Nathan's probably not in a position to believe any sort of swords or path bluff with him having already cast 2. And even if it did happen, it's like, okay, whatever. Now we're still...
Sword goes on to the Scrib Ranger. In with the Scrib. Take 3, discard, and untap.
That's a 4 spot for the Exalted Trigger.
Oh, 4 from the Ike. There is the Kasali Pride Mage. Discards an extra Knight of the Reliquary. That's another big card.
I'm not really sure what Jacob's plan here is because of the Knight of the Reliquary. Because of the Pride Mage. He basically has to rip Plow to be able to stick that Jit.
Well, he can fetch with the Knight of the Reliquary next turn a Maze of It to stop the Sword of Feast and Famine for good.
Sure. I'm just saying I'm just surprised to see him discard Knight of the Reliquary as opposed to getting rid of the Jit.
One mana. Fetches.
Oh, he's drawing off the horizon.
Yep. Pardon me, draws. I meant to say sacrifices, but Hopefully everyone understands the Horizon Canopy is gone for the card draw. And then he taps down. No, he's going to fetch or crack the knight to get rid of the forest. Gets a Gaia's Cradle. Wow. Gaia's Cradle here taps for 1, 2, 3, 4 mana.
Yep.
Taps it immediately.
So
Oh, wow. Zenith for 3. It resolves.
Okay. So he has
He's got 1 mana floating if he wants it. He got a Kasali Pride Mage there.
Right.
Potentially 2/3 mana here. There's another Knight of the Reliquary. Wow. Those are
some big draw steps between the draw and the Horizon Canopy.
Yes. I mean, I think we just saw Nathan do a really big play there, and now Jacob has come back with his big turn.
Yeah.
Swords to Plowshares on the new Knight of the Reliquary. This Knight is currently a 7/7. And the Knight, she goes away.
If he had Plow, I'm a little surprised he let him go into that turn with the Knight.
Third land here for Nathan Calvin, dropping a forest. If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan, and I'm here with Patrick Sullivan.
Yo.
Nathan Calvin on the right. He's a current reigning California State champion.
Just lost his sword there to the Pride Mage. Things are beginning to slip away a little bit. He needs a...
Is that an ooze?
That is an ooze.
An ooze is going to actually be very, very valuable here. Scavenging Ooze is going to be able to shrink the very large Knight of the Reliquary that Jacob Kory has.
Depends. Unfortunately, Nathan's a little tight on mana, so he's, if he loses the Script Ranger, he can get in a position where he. It's another big draw from Jacob.
Green Sun Zenith for 3 here.
Could start
up
spinning.
To 3.
He's got to protect himself from Jacob starting to spin Wastelands. So Zenith for 3 for a Witness.
Oh, boy. And actually, Witness is very interesting here because it's going to force the mana use from Scavenging Ooze if he wants to stop the return with the Witness, which then will mean that he won't have mana available to use Kasali Pride Mage, putting essentially Nathan to a question of which thing he wants to be able to do.
Right, and I think you just have to fight over the Eternal Witness right now because I don't think he has enough mana to... Oh, no, he's got 2 floating. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's got mana floating.
He can jet, yeah.
Yeah. And it looks like he targeted Swords to Plowshares, and that's eaten by the ooze.
Yeah, he doesn't.
So here you have Umezawa's Jite and equip.
Jacob had 3 or 4 just huge draws there in a row.
On to the Stoneforge Mystic, and that is devastating.
That's a big swing right there. He's going to be able to get his ooze in front and just eat. But he's going to lose the Script Ranger and...
I think he's going to lose the Pride Mage
he's
first.
going to lose the Pride Mage first, sorry.
Yeah.
But once he loses that Script Ranger, then Jacob's in a position where he can just start spinning Wastelands because he's got such a huge mana advantage.
So there we have the loss of 2 of Nathan Calvin's creatures. The Umezawa's Jite is empty, so what Nathan Calvin really needs to do here is put an answer to the Jite in play immediately, and then he still has to reckon with Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah.
Misty Rainforest there.
And Jacob's decision to draw first has definitely paid off here because the game has not been really tempo-oriented.
Yeah.
It's been a grind fest, and
Knight of the Reliquary hits the play. I believe that Jacob's Knights of the Reliquary are 9/9s and that Nathan's are currently 5/5s.
Jacob had a bunch of huge empty-handed rips, but he wouldn't even been in a position to have those rips if he didn't have the extra card to begin with by going second. So,
yeah, and that is correct. 9-5, 9/9 for Jacob and 5/5 for Calvin. If Nathan were playing against a lesser player right now,
yeah, I mean,
I think he would be in really good shape. But Jacob has not given him any, you know.
When luck meets skill, man, it's just like that is just what it is. Nothing to be done.
If you don't have to choose between the two, why not do both, right?
Right. Now we're going big.
And here comes the Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah, now we're just...
If Nathan Calvin has a Dryad Arbor in his deck, he can fetch a Dryad Arbor with the Misty Rainforest, block with it, then return it with a Scrib Ranger.
Right.
So he's still not out of this if there's a Dryad Arbor in his deck. I don't remember if Nathan Calvin already has a Dryad Arbor dead, or if he knows the play's there.
No, it got plowed. Remember, it got plowed very early in the game.
It got plowed. Does he have a second one? Nathan Calvin does not have a second one.
Right.
And that's it. Nathan knows it's over.
Yep.
Packs it up. Oh.
So very hard played match by Nathan there, but
that was a great match.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Maverick here, taking down Punishing Maverick.
But Jacob, that was